Hello everyone, this is Atota Ratan Babu, working as an assistant professor in the Department of Aeronautical Engineering in Institute of Aeronautical Engineering, Hyderabad. So today's topic is about types of grid and its importance. So here you can see a structured grid. So basically there are different types of grid, that is structured grid and unstructured grid. So here we are seeing the structured grid. So before going to this grid, let's see what is the importance of this grid. So let us consider a domain. So let's consider flow over a flat plate. Let's say heated this is a heated flat plate. Okay, so you want to see what is happening around this flat plate. So if you want to see what is happening around this flat plate, then you need to create a domain. So here you can see this bottom part is called wall. Okay, a heated wall, let's say. Fine. So here you have inflow and here you have outflow. So let's say the temperature of the wall or a heated plate is 500 Kelvin. So since our atmospheric temperature, let's take this as 300 Kelvin. So due to temperature difference, so you have the convection of the flow. Okay, let's say, so you have some flow rising like this. Okay. So in order to see this phenomena using computational fluid dynamics, first you need to decide what is the characteristics of domain. So what should be the length of the domain and height of the domain. Okay, so domain is an entity where your model is placed. So basically this is called a domain. So domain is nothing but it's an entity, so which is used to model a computational fluid dynamic block where the fluid dynamic simulations will take place. And here in the domain, so when you perform this grid techniques, so this domain will be divided into subdomains. So here you can see, so basically, so this is, let's say this is the domain which we are talking about. So let's say this bottom one is your plate. Okay, heated plate. This bottom one is here heated plate. So let's take this as wall. So here you have inflow of air and here you have outflow of air. Okay, so this is far field, or this is the free stream region, so where you don't have any effect of this heated plate. Okay, so what happens, let's say your air, so basically air will be moving from high pressure to lower pressure. Okay, so here the temperature of the plate, let's say we have taken as 500 Kelvin. Okay, so here the temperature of the air like 300 Kelvin. So due to difference of temperature, there will be a convective motion which is happening from the plate. Okay, there is a rise in fluid. So these things to be captured actually. So here domain is an entity, so which is the interest or the area where you are doing this computational fluid dynamic operations. Okay, so when you perform this grid, okay, so when you grid or mesh, so the mesh is an entity where it will, so these are the domain boundaries. Okay, so mesh or the grid is an entity, so which will divide this domain into subdomains. So here you can see, so these are like subdomains. Okay, so you have so many number of subdomains. So these, let's say these domains are of rectangular shape. Okay, so let's say you have n number of subdomains. Okay, so basically the important aspects before doing the CFD simulations, first you need to get the information of the domain. So what is the length of the domain, what is the height of the domain, then after, so which type of grid to be used. So these things are very very important. Fine. Yeah, so if you see, this is a zoomed view of this grid in the previous picture whatever we have. So basically, as I told you that this blue color region are the boundaries of the domain. Okay, so here you can see, So the smallest part of the domain is nothing but it is cell. Okay, so these are called mesh points or grid points. Okay, here also this is also called a point. Okay, so this is called structured because so you can see even the boundaries of the cell are regular. Okay, regular in shape. Okay, and you can see that. So let's take this is a mesh point, and surrounding to this mesh point you have, sorry, so you have this connectivity. So you have this connectivity. Let's say this is the area of interest, or let's say the mesh of interest I. So surrounding to this mesh point, so you have four neighboring grid points. So here you can see that connectivity is very simple and clear. Okay, so this is the aspect of structured mesh. Okay, so basically this is called the cell phase. If it is like 2D. So basically this is called edge length. If it is 3D, then it is called cell phase. Okay, and this is called grid point. Okay, so these aspects are very important. So to to determine what is the spacing between successive grid points. So basically this is one grid point. Let's say this is one and this is two. So the distance between these two grid points will vary. Okay, and the distance between these two grid points also will vary. So if these distances, okay, so let's say 1 and 2, 2 and 3. So if the distance between these two grid points 1 and 2, 2 and 3, if these two are equal, then it is called this uniform mesh. Okay, so let's see here. So yeah, these aspects we had seen here. So basically this is a uniform mesh. So everywhere you can see, everywhere in the domain or in the entity, so the distance between these 2 points, let's say if you consider these 2 points, these 2 points, these 2 points, so these the spacing between two grid points is uniform. So therefore it is called a uniform grid or uniform mesh. Okay, so here you can see non-uniform grid along x-axis. So basically, so here you can see that, so near the axis zone, so this axis zone, so your spacing is very close. So here away from this axis zone, let's take this entity as origin of this domain. So away from the origin the spacing is very high, and near to the origin spacing is very low. Okay, in the case of non-uniform grid or non-uniform mesh, so the spacing between two grid points will not be equal throughout the length. Fine, so here you can see near to the origin of the domain, so the spacing is very less, and away from the origin the spacing is more. Okay, so here this diagram shows that this is a non-uniform grid where you have non-uniform spacing along x direction, but you have like uniform spacing along y direction. Okay, yeah, so here you can see previously we had seen the non-uniform grid only along x direction. So here you can see that non-uniform grid along y direction, so you can see this way. Fine, so here along x-axis, so it is uniform. So if you see clearly, so distance between these 2 points, so these two successive points are equal, but along x-axis. But if you see along y-axis, so it is not equal. So they are called non-uniform grid along y-axis. Okay, so here you can see you can have a non-uniform grid both along x-axis and y-axis also. So this is a picture where it shows non-uniform grid along x-axis and non-uniform grid along y-axis. So basically here you can see that thing. So near to the origin, okay, and along x-axis, so you can see that you have a finite grid. Okay, but if you see that, if you go away from the origin and here in the top, so this is not finer, and the spacing between x-axis and y-axis is also non-uniform, and these things are applied because if you want to capture any special quantities near to the plate, so let these whatever we are talking, so this is near to the plate. Okay, so this plate region, so you have a boundary layer, let's say thermal boundary layer, or momentum boundary layer. So let's say, so you have a boundary layer, so this boundary layer will be of let's say 0.002 meter thickness. Okay, so if you want to capture this boundary layer, okay, which is present near to the plate, so you need to have this type of mesh or the grid. Okay, so basically this is called like coarse, sorry, fine, and this is called coarse entity. Okay, so why we need to do these things, because if you want to capture any thermal boundary layer or momentum boundary layer, so you need to first calculate like rough thickness of it, then your first grid point away from the wall should be placed such a way that it will capture this boundary layer. Okay, so that is the reason why, so you will actually vary the spacing between the grids, and there are some regions where the spacing between the grid points will not be that more, okay, will not be that considerable in the sense. So here you can see the spacing is very large. So in this entity you can see that if this is not your area of interest, in the sense, if you don't want to put a special attention on the far field, so if you don't want to investigate anything near to the far field, and this results doesn't affect of the results of the results near to the plate, then you can use, so then you can use a coarse or a very large spaced grid points also here. Okay, so basic reason is that if you want to capture anything near to any entity, then you should have a less spacing between two grid points, and the if you are using a greater spacing between two grid points, then you are in, like, you are not interested to get the data of that thing. Okay, so this is what a crude estimation, but if you go conceptually according to the mesh techniques and these things, you need to actually calculate, so what should be the length along x-axis, along y-axis, so basically boundary layer things, and then go for the meshing or the grid techniques. Okay, yeah, so as we discussed in the previous slide, so here the difference you can see, so this is called a coarse grid, so where you can see, so basically this is a uniform grid or a uniform mesh. So if you see this figure 1 and let's say this figure 2, so here you can see that the spacing between these two are equal. Here also the spacing between these two grid points are equal, but the number of grid points on these boundaries, so on the domain boundaries, is different. Let's say this is 50 points, 50 points. Okay, so but here let's say this is 150 points and 150 points. So if you are using more number of points, grid points on the domain, so then it is called finer grid. Okay, and if you are using less number of grid points, then it's called coarser grid. So you may get an doubt, so why we should like vary this number of grid points. Let's say what happens if you use 100 number of grid points. So here in the first domain, so you have 50 grid points along x and 50 grid points along y. So grid points are these entities. Okay, so these are the grid points. So based on the grid points itself, so you are getting these cells. Fine, so here I am using 150 grid points. So what happens when I use 100 grid points? So basically, so when you are performing a CFD simulation, so grid independence study is very, very important. So that is nothing but so the minimum number of grid points where your solution does not affect. So let's say if I am using 50 grid points, okay, along x and y, and if I have a solution, let's say velocity of 1 to 1.2 meter per second, and if I use 100 grid points along x and y, then if I have a velocity of 1.3 meter per second, let's say I'm going for 150, so grid points x comma y. So let's say if I have 1 point, so something like 2,999 meter per second, then I can say that, so I can go for like 100, then I can say that I can go for 100 grid points. Why? Because if I'm increasing the number of grid points, the solution is not considerably changing. So if the solution changes considerably when you are changing the number of grid points, then uh, you have to eliminate the lower number of the grid points and update the uh, new version of the grid points. Then you need to check by increasing what happens. Okay, if the solution between these two grid points, if they have an agreement of error less than, let's say, 0.1%, or let's say less than 1%, then you can go for lower number of grid points. So grid independency study is very, very important. So this will save your computation time. Okay, so till now we had seen the aspects of structured mesh, but here you can see it's an unstructured mesh. So basically the difference between structured and unstructured mesh is so the nodal connectivity of this grid point. So let's take this is the grid nodal node. So for this node there are so many number of connectivity nodes, irregular, which are irregularly attached. But if you see a structured grid point, so let's say this is a grid point, so you have 4 neighboring points. Okay, why? Because the solution at this grid point will be mainly influenced by this point 1, let's say 2, 3 and 4. But here you can see, let's say this is point I interest, so let's take this is the point I interest, but the neighboring grid points are very high. Okay, so the dependency of the solution at this grid point will depend on all these neighboring grid points. So therefore this unstructured grid will be actually used for only complex geometries. For a simple and a regular boundaries, there is no need of using unstructured mesh. Why? Because the connectivity is complex. Why? When you are discretizing the numerical like governing equations, so let's say you are writing equation at this point of interest I, then the equation which is present at the point of interest I will be depending upon 1, 3, 2 and 4. Okay, so the let's say the equation will be somewhat simple, but when you write equation for an unstructured grid, so it will be very large and some complex entity. Okay, so therefore basically this unstructured mesh or the unstructured grid will be used only when you have a complex domain or a complex geometry. So when you have a regular boundaries, let's say this is our a like rectangular or a square domain. So basically these boundaries are regular, so here you can go for a structured mesh. There is no need of going unstructured mesh. Why? Because it's very simple to perform the grid. Okay, so when your boundaries are not regular, or if the boundaries are complex, then you can go directly for unstructured mesh. Yeah, so here you can see a simple example for unstructured mesh. So this is let's say a blade. Okay, so an aerofoil shaped blade, a turbo machinery kind of example. So where you can see that you have a curved nature of the domain. So basically domain, or let's say model. So this is called your model, and this entire thing is your domain. Okay, so basically this is your domain and this is your model. So inside the domain, so basically you will place your model and you will see the flow over these things. So basically this is external flow. Okay, So here you can see that the geometry, so it's like curved and somewhat complex. And if you want to know the the results very precise near to the wall, then here you can see that we are using a finer mesh near to this uh, model. You can see that we are using a finer mesh. You can see a blacker entity. So basically this will show you that a finer mesh which is used, this is called leading edge of the aerofoil, and this is called the trailing edge of the aerofoil. So starting portion of the aerofoil is called leading edge, and the ending portion of the aerofoil is called trailing edge. So these, if these two entities are very important, and if you want to know what is happening, or if you want to calculate velocity, pressure very precisely near to these entities, then you need to go for a very finer mesh. So that's what you can see, this black entity where you have a very finer mesh. But away from this wall or away from this model, so you can see that the mesh is coarser. Okay, fine. So basically here, if you see in depth, so if you want to capture the stagnation regions and if you want to know the boundary layer aspects, that's why we are using the mesh as finer. And away from the wall, so the flow is assumed to be like inviscid and does not change, but uh, near to the wall it's very important, that's why we are using this finer mesh kind of thing. Okay, thank you.
Like, share, and subscribe. Hit the bell icon for more updates.